Crystal, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. We're so happy to have you here today. We live to serve, and we love all of you. So I need to pull out my notes here. So I just, before I get started, I want to remind you all that you can introduce yourself in the chat, add your name, your organization, your pronouns, what you do. And then we're gonna go through this presentation first, and then we are happy to answer questions before we move on to our networking session at the end. And then also at the end, we'll talk through our legislative priorities for the upcoming session. And one brief announcement, you may have just gotten our text message, but the Shuttered Events webinar that the SBA is hosting at 1 p.m. is full. But we had a couple of requests for people from some of you, if you could come and watch it with me here in our Salt Lake City office. Masked and distanced, of course. So I've booked a large conference room in our co-working space. And so you're welcome to come and join me at 1 p.m. And that address is 26 South Rio Grande Street at the Gateway. So we're on the second floor. It's in the Kiln co-working space. We moved here earlier this year when we found out our offices were getting turned into condos, and conveniently it's cheaper for us, which is great for our industry and these crazy times. So I want to start by sharing a little bit of history about who we are and what we are here at Utah Culture Alliance. So in 1979, Utah Museums Association was founded. In 1980, Utah Citizens for the Arts, which eventually became Utah Cultural Alliance, was founded. And what was different about what our founders were doing, what these community leaders in our cultural industry were doing, is they recognized that as we work together as an industry, we really were stronger together. We really were able to do more as an industry by working together rather than all of us siloed. And we've really seen the fruits of that labor in the last couple of years. This pandemic, the human impacts, of course, are far greater than any of the economic impacts that our industry is facing. But we are also facing deep uncertainty as an industry. And because of this coming together, because of us putting community together above individual needs, we've received the support that we need. And that's the work of all of us working together, our friends at Heritage and Arts, our friends at Utah Arts and Museums, Utah Museums Association, Utah Humanities, our local arts agencies, and us. It's all of us coming together that makes this growth, this support possible. And so we want to talk to you about how we can continue to build our community as a cultural industry. So first I want to introduce our team. Do you want to go to that next slide?
Just trying.
There we go. Thank you, Ruth. So if you haven't met everybody, and I want my team to say hi, I have the best team in the universe, and I'm so thrilled to be able to work with everybody. We've taken a little bit of a leap of faith to grow, but we know we can do it, and we are doing it. So if you don't know me, I'm Crystal Young-Otterstrom, and I've been with the Cultural Alliance for 10 years, actually. And then Ernesto Valderas is our communications director. Ernesto, wave. You'll hear from all of us verbally later. He's a recent graduate of the MFA in Arts Administration program at Southern Utah University, and he's based in Cedar City and will continue to be based in Cedar City, which we're excited about as we strive to really serve the industry statewide. And he's working on an MBA right now in data analytics. Did I say that right, Ernesto? And then Kylie Howard, Kylie's been with us for almost 2 years now. 2.5, probably, if you count when she was an intern with us as well. So you guys have got to know Kylan. She's amazing. She's our operations director. She has a background in bassoon performance. So the two of us are musicians. Ernesto is a dancer, and Ruth has an arts and museums background. And so we know what we're doing when we talk about the cultural industry. And Kylie herself is also furthering her education. She's getting a certificate in data analytics as well. And then Ruth White, our outreach director. Many of you know Ruth because she has long been the administrative director at the Museums Association, and we've always been strong partners together, our two organizations. And I'm so thrilled that Ruth is now full-time with us. She's still continuing her role with UMA because we believe so strongly in that partnership. And Ruth heads up our events and our grant writing, among other things. And so it's a wonderful, wonderful team. So we are evolving to better serve you as we build this cultural agency. And to do that, first let me introduce our board. So thank you very much. So we have our 501c4 board, Utah Cultural Alliance board, and I won't read all of the names, but many of you are on the call today. So thank you very much for all of your service. And then on the next slide, we have our Utah Cultural Alliance Foundation board. As you can see, it's a pretty big board, and I'm going to talk about in a second why it is. But we are so thrilled to work with all of these wonderful leaders across the state, many of whom are working in this industry, but then also who live to serve this industry. So then the next slide. So that's where I jumped ahead a little bit. We are evolving. So as you know, as you all know, Visit Salt Lake approached us in 2018 about taking over the management of Now Playing Utah. And they actually proposed a full merger at the time. And for various reasons, we elected to maintain the two separate 501c3s as separate entities. And in many ways, it's kind of a best practices scenario of when you're thinking about merging with another organization, you want to do your year or so of due diligence and make sure the cultures mesh and the boards mesh and all the finances are in line and all of that. And so I'm thrilled to announce that earlier last year, our two boards, the Now Playing Utah and the Utah Cultural Alliance Foundation board, made the decision that we really were better as a more streamlined organization. And so they made the choice to merge. Our new name as a combined organization will continue as the Utah Cultural Alliance Foundation. And so together we are your industry association serving arts, humanities, museums, cultural education, heritage, all of the above, for-profit and nonprofit. We're going to talk a little bit about who we are in a minute, but the association, it's very common for us to have a political arm. And so Utah Cultural Alliance is our 501c4 arm. And then we do also have a political action committee, which, you know, unfortunately, that's how we are able to better serve all of you and better serve the cultural industry. And so as we've worked towards this merger, we have also worked to develop a new strategic plan for our organization to better serve all of you. So there we go. So I'm going to read this, even though you all can read, but this vision is what motivates us every day and what we evaluate what we are doing on behalf of you and if it's working for you. So our vision is a Utah known nationally for its wide breadth of cultures where public and private investment in an equitable access to arts and cultural opportunities are prioritized and valued. And when we were developing this new vision statement as our combined boards, originally 3, now 2, one of our board members asked me, what does this vision mean to you? What does this mean to you as the executive director, and then also to each of us as the staff? And for me, it means a few things, but it means that we're working towards getting this story out there of how amazing Utah's cultural sector is because of all of you, the amazing work, the amazing service, the amazing programs that all of you put together to serve our community. people don't know what high quality it is outside of Utah. And even in Utah, they could get to know it more. And so we really want to build that brand, build that knowledge of who we are. And then we also want to continue to build a Utah who recognizes the cultural industry's importance and value to our community by making those public and private investments in an equitable way, and that it's prioritized and valued. And I'm going to share a story in a little bit, but we are seeing that belief, that support happen in action, and we certainly have seen it in the last year. We have also revised our mission statement, and again, I'm going to read them, even though you're capable of reading, but we love these mission statements and they drive who we are. So our 501c3 Utah Cultural Alliance Foundation mission statement is: Utah Cultural Alliance Foundation, as the cultural industry association, communicates and amplifies the value of culture and supports creative professionals. And then our 501c4 mission, Utah Cultural Alliance, we're actually still wordsmithing this a tiny little bit, but currently it's Utah Cultural Alliance lobbies for robust investment in and policies that enhance the cultural industry and lifelong cultural education. And up at that top, that statement about culture defining our way of life and being part of our DNA, it really is kind of our core message that we like to communicate about the cultural industry and why Utah believes in arts and humanities, and it's part of who we are and what we do. And the other day, I was speaking with a legislator, and they spat that line right back at me. I was thanking them for the support that the legislature made into the Create in Utah programs, and also allowing us access to shop in Utah, and their constant pledges in the last few weeks of remembering our industry in this upcoming session and recognizing that we still need further investment as an industry. And this legislator was like, and I was like, thank you so much. It's wonderful. It's so great how in Utah we support and believe this. And he said to me, Crystal, this is who we are. This is what Utahns are. We care about arts and culture. We care about arts and humanities. It's just part of who we are and what we do. And I just had to smile because that's the line we've been saying for years and years and years. And it's great to see it get through. And in fact, there's a quote that we like to pass around as a staff by Albert Hubbard, and I'm going to paraphrase it since we are more than art. So art and culture is not a thing, it is a way. And I think that's how we are here in Utah. This is our way, supporting creativity and critical thinking as well. Now I'm going to talk about our core beliefs. So our core beliefs are the messages that we want to communicate to broader stakeholders about the value that this industry gives back to Utah, and really defines why it is the Utah way to support arts and culture. And so our core beliefs are that our cultural organizations, our industry fosters thriving communities by improving long-term physical and emotional health and enhancing our quality of life. Long-term and sustainable investment in Utah's cultural industries directly and positively impact Utah's economy. The cultural industry serves as a core component of the tourism, hospitality, and recreation industries that, when working together, directly benefit and develop Utah's economy. And lastly, a strong and enduring lifelong cultural education provides critical 21st century skills that allow individuals to better communicate, collaborate, and creatively problem solve. And now I want to talk about our values, what drives our work. So before I talked about what we believe about the cultural industry, the messages that we're communicating, and now our values are how we go about doing that work to serve you guys. So first and foremost, collaboration. So just as this organization was founded by visionary leaders like Ruth Draper and others who recognized that we were stronger together, we know collaboration is a core value for us because we are stronger when we work together. So UCA strives to develop long-lasting partnerships between individuals and organizations that allow us to better advocate for and support creative professionals. You'll hear this staff and me in the next year and couple of years really talking about the community that we're trying to build as a cultural industry. You know, we're not just a group of people who share certain interests and share certain beliefs about the importance of culture and arts and humanities and museums and film and entertainment. We're also a community where we care about each other. And one of the opportunities that this pandemic has presented of the last year is I think we've really seen all of us come together and work together and care about one another more than we ever have before, despite being physically distant from each other and most of the time talking on Zooms like this. And then our next value is growth. So we seek to constantly improve our understanding of other cultures, viewpoints, and systems that allow us to better serve the Utah cultural community. And then equity. We fight to ensure the cultural industry is representative of and available to communities of all socioeconomic, racial, sexual orientation, gender identity, ability, and cultural backgrounds. And we recognize that a lot of work needs to happen there. We're going to go to the next slide. Thank you. And so now my team is going to talk about IDEA. And then after that, our programs. We see IDEA as more than a program for the organization, because it's something that's driving everything we do here at the Cultural Alliance and feeding all of our other programs. And so now I turn the podium to Ernesto.
Sure, thank you, Crystal. I appreciate it. So throughout this past year, we have seen a number of events that really catalyzed a lot of changes within the cultural industry. And we wanted to really start and for ourselves realize what exactly is it that we can change about ourselves. We want to better serve the Utah community, and in order to do that, we need to change ourselves. So in order to do that, we established our IDEA committee, and we hold firm that these efforts are a ribbon that flows through everything that we do. And so what we mean by that is we mean that this is something that does not just stop at a one budget line, or it does not stop at a specific program. It influences and is constantly talked about in every single discussion that we have, in every social media post, every podcast, every advocacy point that we ever give you. This is something that we are constantly asking ourselves. Is this actually in line with our IDEA efforts? And are we doing our best to serve the entire Utah community? So with that, we have a budget. These efforts are a budget priority in all areas. The programs that we have are constantly being reviewed through the lens of IDEA, with board members, with staff, with everyone that we are trying to partner with. That all of these programs and initiatives that we have are constantly being looked over with different eyes, different opinions, different perspectives. We also have an internal plan with a public statement saying that, yes, we are committed to this and that we will do this work. We are also performing an annual audit of our resources page for the industry, so that way we can make sure that we are providing constant information and up-to-date information for you all and for ourselves, to make sure that we are always keeping up to date with best practices in this field. And lastly, we also want to always continue to increase awareness for a wide variety of cultural expressions, that here in Utah, multiculturalism is a good thing, that we are looking to embrace the other cultures that are here within Utah that have often not been seen or have been marginalized in this community. We want to make this a priority, especially as we continue to go forward.
So we have a number of different program areas, and as Ernesto said, through all of these programs, we are striving to improve the inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility that they have. And so we're gonna just quickly go through each of the programs and our upcoming goals over the next 5 years within those programs. Keep in mind that these goals will evolve and change as the industry evolves and changes. So the first one is Now Playing Utah. We will continue to host the nowplayingutah.com website, and it is a very vital part of what we offer to the industry. Next, our advocacy and election endorsement efforts. then our Culture Bites podcast, our data initiatives, then career development, and then talking about our free night event. So we're going to start off with Kylie talking about Now Playing Utah.
Thanks, Ruth. So nowplayingutah.com, as you know, is Utah's #1 events calendar. We power 14 other calendars at any given moment throughout the state. I say at any given moment because that number is constantly fluctuating. We power special events calendars. So for example, it's Better Days 2020, Spike 150, Thrive 125, and Rally the Valley. Those are all special events calendars that maybe only last a couple months long or a year long. We provide the events for that. So the point of this is just to make it easy for you all to advertise your events, virtual or in person, and what's going on, to post in one place and get it throughout the entire state really, really quickly, because we know you are strapped for time and it doesn't make sense for you to have to post to 20 different calendars every single day. That just is not tenable. So moving forward with nowplayingutah.com, we're really excited to be conducting an annual audit of all of our directories and user experience every single year. Last year, we completed the audit for our artist directory. We added a number of different artists from different organizations and, kind of went through and cleaned up old listings that maybe they've moved from Utah and aren't there. So moving forward this year, we're focusing on organizations, and we're excited to, get that all solidified. So it's a really robust resource for Utahns. We're also going to be introducing some new content this year, including travel itineraries, stories. We've been hosting podcasts on the website for a while. So if you have a podcast and you'd like to get it listed, give me a call. I'd like to get that up. And we're doing annual survey of users to see what does an average Utahn want on this website, what would make it most useful for them. We're working on improved brand awareness. As you can see, we have this lovely new brand with Now Playing Utah, the big, huge exclamation mark. We're really excited. This is our third brand logo that we've had in the existence of Now Playing Utah. And we've just tried to keep it up to date with the times. With that brand awareness came a brand new website that is really modern, easy to use, and has accessibility features, so even more Utahns can feel comfortable using the website. And that came out of a continual exploration of new tools. And so we're committing to continuing to explore new tools, including a mobile app. That's my personal favorite. Improved ticket admission sales so that you can benefit more from putting your event on Now Playing Utah. Performance reviews of your event so you can see how things are doing and how the website in general is doing. Customized newsletter. So if a Utahn wants to know about all the music events, they can just see all the music events and maybe a couple other things that might grab their interest. Spotify playlists of Utah artists and musicians would be really cool. And art foster programs, etc. The sky's the limit here. We're always looking to explore new options, and we're excited to see what really tailoring this to what Utah needs will do for the website and for the organizations that have their events listed on the website. With over 1.4 million unique visitors annually, this is really important to us. And so we're excited to see this continue to develop.
Okay, Ernesto, Advocacy and Elections.
I apologize. I couldn't find my mute button. It was escaping me. So for our advocacy and elections goals for this year, we really wanted to place a strong emphasis on providing the relief that is necessary for the cultural industry right now, especially throughout this ongoing pandemic and through a lot of the many situations that I'm sure many of you find yourselves in as much as we are as well. So for that, we want to build some really strong support for the industry among our elected officials, constantly continuing to push that story that the cultural industry is imperative to the economy, the well-being, and the livelihood of the state of Utah. That it is really an important thing for them to place in their policy making. We want to increase the funding for the cultural industry as well. We are working with several of our partners to increase some of the asks and various funding avenues that we have for this coming year, and I believe will be discussed a little bit later. We also want to make sure that state and federal policies are friendly for the cultural industry. This includes things such as tax incentives. This includes a variety of other things that that the state and federal legislators can include in their policy making to make it more attractive to produce arts, humanities, and cultural creatives, anything like that in the state of Utah. We also want to encourage our members to participate in our advocacy efforts. We want to increase the amount of training that you have, provide you specific targeted updates to the very real things that are going to affect you in your day-to-day life and your day-to-day work. We also have access to our Bill Tracker app that is a new app that we are going to be releasing here very shortly, where members, as you'll have an account, you'll be able to track all of the bills that we are tracking for you that directly relate to the cultural industry. Things such as the state flag initiative or tax incentives, tax changes that could potentially affect your budgetary items, that sort of thing. We want to keep you really updated with that, and you'll be able to use it on your own phone. And also we have other advocacy events throughout the state of Utah that we're going to be working throughout, in addition to keeping it safe, socially distanced, and of course, virtual whenever we can. So in addition to that, we want to continue to strengthen our candidate endorsement process. Over the past year, we realized that there were some things that could potentially be improved on in our endorsement process and things that could be strengthened. And so we want to continue throughout this year to deliberate that with our board and to make a really fine-tuned, strengthened endorsement process so that way know what candidates we are endorsing and be more transparent about why we're endorsing those candidates as well. We also want to help municipalities in various efforts to improve the arts and humanities, the cultural industry within their communities. We're working right now with Craig Hall Sr. and in order to fine-tune some policies that help to govern some of those municipality legislation that's coming forward. We also are working with some of the SUU students from my alma mater, the MFA program there, and they are helping us to create a project to where we can help to better disseminate, grade, and to advocate for municipality projects for the cultural industry within that area. So we're looking forward to that as well. And then, as always, we're going to be looking forward to keeping some breaking news, always keeping you updated of the very important things that are going to affect you within the next day, the next week, the next month, especially within this ongoing pandemic. If you haven't already, please make sure that you are subscribed to our newsletters, subscribe to our text messaging service, so that way we can give you those various updates that are happening right now with PPP loans, shuttered venue grants, any sort of federal, state funding that might be available to you. We want to keep you informed. Next slide. Thank you, Ruth. So alongside our advocacy and elections goals, I'm also in charge of our podcast goals. And so with that, if you haven't been following, we have a weekly podcast that is released every week. And we want with this podcast to maintain a strong idea focus. As I mentioned before, it is a ribbon that flows through every single thing that we're doing. So we wanted to commit to having at least one BIPOC organization, either that's a led organization or an organization that serves that community, and we want to showcase them. So for example, we have Artes de Mexico in Utah. Here in a couple of weeks, we'll have Caribbean Nightingale LLC, which is one of our newest members, and you'll be able to hear about poetry, relaxation through verse. That is one of their programs as well. And we have a wide variety of other organizations that are showcased with that, including Cedar City Arts Council. We have Hale Center Theater. We have Good Company Theater, and various other organizations that we would love to showcase as well. In addition to that, we also have some career development topics with some of our podcast episodes, especially within the coming year. We want to really start to think about what exactly can we offer you through this podcast episodes. So stay tuned on that. And we're excited to introduce some of that career development through our podcast as well. And of course, we want to continue to refine the process of submitting topic speakers. So that way, if any of you have any suggestions or ideas for us to include in our podcast, please let me know. You can let me know at ernesto@utculture.org. Definitely feel free to shoot me an email, and I'm happy to take your feedback. And of course, always growing our audience numbers. We want to make sure that we are reaching the largest community possible, because there are so many great organizations, such great things that we can offer to our Utah community. And we are super excited about giving that to as many people as possible, to our audience and to the entire state of Utah.
So another program at the Utah Culture Alliance is our Data Initiative Goals. This is where we gather data to produce the State of Utah Culture Report annually. We're gathering data such as Utah's #1 in the nation for arts creation. We have more libraries than we have McDonald's in the state of Utah. And we've actually even been able to find that through COVID-19, our industry reports a loss of $76 million. And while that's a sobering number, those are just a handful of numbers that we collect, because we know that as creatives in the cultural industry, we're really good at telling stories and connecting people, but sometimes they want the data to back up all of our anecdotes. And so we provide that information so that your anecdotes can sing through really, really powerfully. So we use this data to advocate for the cultural industry. We're working on featuring BIPOC artists and programming in the State of Utah Culture Report this year. We're improving our data tracking and dissemination. So you'll see a big, huge press release this year about the Culture Report. Stay tuned. That's coming in a couple of weeks. We're increasing the number of co-publishers, and we're expanding the distribution of all of our data reports, such as the State of Utah Culture Report and most recently our COVID data reports. And we're exploring new strategies, such as making the report primarily digital for 2021. Not the 2020 report, but the next year's report will be primarily digital. We're improving our data collection and research so that the data is really, really sound, that it's got a wide variety of people contributing to it, increasing the quality of that data so that more people will listen to it and understand it. And the study of culture worker salaries is something that we would like to do also. So that is coming in the next couple of years with our data initiative. Like I said, we are doing a big, huge press release for the 2020 State of Utah Culture Report. Look for that in early February. We're really excited and a little sad to put this out, because it does report some really heavy numbers due to COVID. And this is something you guys are all experiencing in the trenches, but to put it together with the entire industry, it's really sobering. And we know there's a lot that we need to do to keep this industry alive, but we've got the numbers to prove it, and we've got the stories to prove it. And so we're confident that we can make our case to all funders everywhere that they should continue to support the cultural industry.
Okay, and along with that, we want to make sure that we give you the tools to continue to increase what you're doing and improve what you're doing, and which is part of our career development. So for the coming year, we plan on holding programs monthly on a variety of topics. For this month, we've already done a webinar about the SBA loans that are coming up. Next week, we will have another webinar about PPP forgiveness. So depending on the need, we may schedule a couple in a month, but our goal is to have at least one per month that will be a members only accessibility. Those will always be recorded and available in the member portal after the fact. So we also want to diversify the attendance by holding programs at locations across the state as we have the ability to do so, but also always providing the ability to participate virtually. So when we can hold a program in some of the more rural parts of the state, we also will offer a virtual option for anyone else in the state to join, and vice versa. When we're holding programs on the Wasatch Front, we want to have a hybrid option. So if you want to participate with a program, but your schedule does not give you the option to drive 3 hours to participate in an hour-long program, you certainly can still get the information that you need. We also are building a committee of community members to help curate our program topics. If you are interested in participating in that committee, please send me an email, ruth@utculture.org, and we certainly will continue to ask for that and ask for topic suggestions from you. We also want to always provide networking opportunities to connect individuals in the cultural industry. So, and the primary way that we're doing that currently is through our monthly culture conversations. When COVID was first hit the state, we started holding those weekly, and we have pulled back to holding those monthly. As things happen, we may do them more often. But thank you to all of you who have participated in those. Those are open to anyone in the culture industry, whether you're a member of UCA or not. Of course, we do encourage you to become a member, to be more involved with our career development programs and helping each other grow and make this industry even better. So we are going to end talking about the programs with our Now Playing Utah free night event.
So in the past, Now Playing Utah free night has been free night of theater and free night of art. And in focusing on inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility, we've decided to really make it very accessible and inclusive by saying it's Now Playing Utah free night, so that we can encourage all cultural forms of engagement to participate and to be recognized here. So the whole point of this program is to introduce audiences to new experiences, diversify audience participation with equitable ticket distribution throughout the state, amplify National Arts and Humanities Month, which is in October every year. And we really want to elevate BIPOC and ability organizations and artists and increase the number of organizations participating by ensuring equitable opportunities. Now we're going through a lot of strategic planning around this program specifically. We had a call with our idea committee that really opened our eyes to a number of things we could be doing that would be really, really exciting. And so we're going to be launching a pilot program this summer with an organization to see how our new ideas work. And so if that isn't enough of a cliffhanger for you, I don't know how to write a better one. So I hope you'll stay tuned to see what the Now Playing Utah free night program looks like, knowing that this is the intent behind it. I can't tell you what it looks like yet because we're not sure, but this is our goal. And so we're going to start with a goal, and we're going to make a plan, and then we're going to move forward. We're going to launch a pilot, and then we're going to go forward full steam ahead in October. So we're really excited about this.
Thank you, Kylie. Are you guys exhausted by all this work and all these programs? I can tell you, we don't have, I don't think we could put together a better team. The four of us, this is more than a job for each of us. We wake up in the morning thinking, how can we better fulfill our mission to communicate and amplify the value of culture, to support creative professionals on our C4 mission, how to cultivate these robust public investments and policies that enhance the cultural industry and promote lifelong education. We wake up thinking about that. We go to bed thinking about it. We spend all night thinking about it, especially right now as the session is upon us. And I know sometimes it seems like we're moving a million miles an hour, and we are, because it's a quickly adapting, quickly moving situation. So now I want to talk about an effort we're doing right now as part of that amplifying culture and communicating the value of culture and helping you all do what you do best, which is entertain and move and challenge and educate Utahns. So early in this pandemic, Speaker Wilson came to me and said, you know what, Crystal, there's a lot about this pandemic that we can take as an opportunity, that we can think about how are we doing things differently and better. And he said, I want to work with you guys to help this cultural industry not just survive this pandemic, but thrive from this pandemic. And thanks to that work, they've invested in the Creating Utah and some of these other programs we've talked about. And we've also worked together with our colleagues at the state to put together the Culture Your Way, or as we're calling it, the Now Playing in Utah campaign, so that it connects with the state's broader In Utah message. And at the state's request, we're actually using the same agency, River Advertising. And you've probably seen a number of these ads in your social media accounts. And right now, it's primarily focused on social media, although we currently have billboards starting to run, and in the next couple months you'll see TV and radio. But with the rise in cases, we decided it would be best to save the bulk of the marketing by for the spring. And we have raised a little over $500,000 for this campaign. And its purpose is to encourage Utahns to re-engage with the industry at the risk and comfort levels that work for each of us. Because, you know, there are no right answers in this pandemic. We're all doing the best that we can. And our second, you know, our purpose for this goal isn't just encouraging them to re-engage, but the campaign itself is not about building up the brand of Now Playing Utah or building up the brand of Utah Culture Alliance. We really want it to drive ticket sales and admission sales, either for virtual events or in-person events, to you guys, because that's what we're about. Is it's not about us, it's about you. And so that campaign's running now, and if you have activities that you want us to promote, please get them to Ernesto. And every week we work together as a team to kind of look at what's coming up and working with our agency to identify which events and which activities and which organizations and businesses to highlight in this campaign. And again, this will be running throughout 2021 with a big hit in March and April, as we hope to have vaccines distributed widely. And so now, to be an efficient use of your time, we traditionally do our legislative preview every year with our wonderful state colleagues at Heritage and Arts and Museums, and State History, and the Library Association, Museum Association, et cetera. And we all work together to develop these priorities together and meet almost every day right now to develop these. So we decided, rather than scheduling a separate event to announce our strategic plan and announce the merger to you, but also to take this opportunity to talk through the 2020 legislative session. So I'm now going to pivot to talk about the session. And again, with COVID, all things are a little bit different. And this is an opportunity to not only think about how we do things differently, but maybe even do them a little bit better. And so you probably saw the news yesterday about indefinitely the session is entirely virtual, and certainly the social calendar and lobby days have long been canceled. So we're just going to be talking about what the lobby days actually look like, but we are encouraging all of you to utilize these virtual touch points and video. We have a new tool that we'll talk about in a second to help you do this. But first, I want to talk about what the requests actually are. And another thing we want to do that's a little bit different is, a lot of times when we talk to you about what the message is for the session, you know, there's a lot of details, there's a lot of numbers, it's hard to keep it all straight. And so we really want to encourage all of you, as you participate in the grassroots the grassroots component of the session, to think in terms of the bigger picture. And so when you talk to legislators, really focus on communicating thank you, gratitude for the investments they made in 2020. Talk about what that did for you, how it kept you alive, what programming it allowed you to do, how you were able to continue to serve Utahns in a new and different way. And then continue to communicate the need. As we've all known as an industry, 2021 is really the year that's going to make or break it for a lot of us in this industry. And so now onto the specific priorities. We have a new governor, and his administration, Governor Cox and Lieutenant Governor Henderson, they actually are both musicians and historians and interested in promoting and making a priority of arts and culture. And in their budget that was released on Monday, we're very thrilled that they put $6 million of a request for $6 million of additional ongoing funding for the arts sustainability grants that are distributed through Division of Arts and Museums. And as we've been talking about, this reflects the change of the last 2 years. You know, in the past, everyone kind of was each man for themselves, lobbying for a line item, and the legislature has realized that's not really a good way to do it. It doesn't really provide a fair shake for everybody. they're not specialists. They can't dive into the merits of each application. And so over the last few years, they've made this shift into focusing on and growing the grants. And our long-term goal as a collective, and by that collective, I mean our three-pronged stool of one half is our partners in government, or one leg of that stool is our wonderful partners and friends of government, heritage and arts, arts and museums, etc. One leg is the industry association and our statewide service organization. So UCA, UMA, Utah Humanities all working together. And then the third leg of the stool is you all. Our grassroots and members as you work with your elected officials. And so we have developed these priorities together, and it's all of us working together that's been able to make these things happen. So also as a collective, we will be asking for $25 million in one-time funding to refill the Create in Utah grants. This is emergency COVID relief funding for the cultural industry. It's not in the governor's budget, and so UCA and all of us working together will be promoting that number. But we just want everyone to know that this is a number we've all come to together, our good friends Jill, Kat, and Vicki, and we will all be communicating this message of putting this additional one-time money into the Create in Utah grants. And then the governor has put $100 million into his budget for additional broader impacted businesses support that will be going through Governor's Office of Economic Development. And we are working with the bill author on that and GOED to make sure that our industry can be part of that as well. The governor also put $125 million in his budget to do a significant infrastructure investment into our outdoor recreation trails and parks. And our state park system manages a number of important museums that we care about. And so we'll be prioritizing that. Before I move on to education, I also want to highlight the $25 million is what our friends in the film industry will be asking for to grow the tax credits and incentives that are offered by the tax commission. And then there's a few staff positions that are in the governor's budget, and also requests to restore the 5% cuts that were enacted last year when the state thought that they might be facing a budget crisis, which fortunately we did not see. And then also reinstating the money that was cut last year to install the Martha Hughes Cannon statue in DC, which will be installed in 2021, even though it was originally planned for 2020. And then on the education front, they will be asking for $4 million ongoing for the Beverly Taylor Sorensen Arts Learning Program. Our POTS program, which puts our professional arts organizations into the schools, will be asking for $200,000 ongoing to make the provisional organizations able to have the 3 new provisional organizations able to have a permanent place in this program. And then IC, which is Sciences and Natural History and Technology, will be asking for $200,000 ongoing to make the Ogden Nature Center, which is currently a provisional member of IC, permanent. And then $225,000 one time to open up the RFP again to allow new organizations to apply and participate. So those are our funding priorities. And again, that's a lot to remember. You don't need to remember all those details as you're having the conversations during Culture Week virtually, and some of the other things we'll be encouraging you to do during the session. Again, keep that big picture, talk about what the money last year meant for you, the jobs that it protected, the programming it allowed you to do, and then communicate need to move forward. Of course, there's dozens and dozens of bills that can potentially impact our industry. And again, we have this cool new app, Bill Tracker, that our members will be able to easily pull up and see all of the bills that impact our industry, but I'm going to highlight a couple of them. We will be running a secondary ticket market regulation bill that basically specifically says that you're perpetuating fraud if you are listing a ticket in the secondary ticketing market that you don't actually own yourself. And this is a consensus bill. We have support from a number of entities, including Ticketmaster and others. And so it should sail right through. GOED, Governor's Office of Economic Development, is bringing back the Main Street program, which is a national program that promotes economic development through historic preservation, and it brings a few state entities together to collaborate and focuses primarily on the historic downtowns of rural areas. And so we will be working with GoEd to promote that program. And also there is an initiative this year. It's going to be a pretty big lift to remove the requirement in our state constitution that requires that the state only do English only official communications. That's been a problem all throughout COVID because of that rule. And so there will be a bill that allows our state to embrace its multicultural and multilingual communities. And that's more than just our industry, but we care about that, and it's important, and it's part of our culture and our cultural industry. And so we'll be supporting that as well. And more to come. All right, so that's the legislative session priorities. Ruth, did you want to talk about Advocacy Days here?
Yep, I'm going to talk about that quickly before we move on. So as Crystal mentioned, a lot happens during the session and things move quickly, and we will do our best to keep you informed of what is going on. We have been meeting with an industry-wide committee to plan Advocacy Days. For the first time ever for the 2021 session, we were able to get the majority of our different Advocacy Days scheduled in 1 week. So we have museums, libraries, film, humanities, arts, music, and STEM all scheduled for the week of February 8th through 12th. So, however, COVID hit, so we're no longer meeting in person. So instead, what this committee decided to do going forward is we are creating a calendar of 45 days of advocacy. 45 days because there's 45 days in the session. And so we'll send that out to all of you next week. And the goal of this is to give you small digestible tasks that you can do each day. And honestly, we don't care if you do them on the assigned day. These are just ideas for you to get more involved with advocacy for the cultural industry, and also to help you build your year-round advocacy plan. One thing that is very important to be thinking about is, while the session is kind of the really shiny, focus on what happens, most of the work that happens to help our industry and the work of government takes place throughout the year. That's when a lot of the conversations are had. Having your legislators involved and teaching them about what you do and why what you do is important, they're going to have a lot more time to learn about that on the outside of the session than they are during the session. The session is for making those final decisions and moving forward. So we want to help all of you build better year-round advocacy plans, and we know that many of you already have great ones, but we all can learn and grow as move forward. So keep an eye out for the 45 days of advocacies to come out next week, and then we'll be doing a special focus this year for Cultural Advocacy Week, the week of February 8th through 12th, and we do have the 2022 dates scheduled as well. For our next cultural advocacy week. So I won't give you those days now because I don't want to confuse you for this year. So we wanted to finish out this portion by reminding you how you can stay connected with UCA. Attend our career development and networking events. This is where you are meeting other people, where you're getting those tools to help you in your day-to-day work. Listen to the Culture Bites podcast. It's a great, they're not super long episodes. I put them in when I go walking or when I'm driving, just so you know what's going on around the state in the cultural industry. As we've said many, many times today, sign up for our text alerts. Make sure that you are getting those last minute updates and reminders. We also have the bill tracking app that we're putting out this year, sign up for that and make sure that you're receiving our emails. Follow us on social media at Utah Culture and at Now Playing Utah. And then coming this spring, we're also doing a blog. So even more ways to stay connected with what the industry is doing. So with that, we wanted to leave the last 15 minutes or so to do some networking breakouts. Allow people to introduce themselves, share how your involvement in UCA has benefited you. We are a fairly small group, so I thought we could just stay together in one group to discuss. We'll turn off the recording so that this portion is a little bit more informal. But thank you so much for all of you that have come today. I realize that typically meetings run on a 60-minute basis, and so there may be some of you that need to run away as we're nearing the 11 o'clock hour. But if you can stay, we would love to have you stay so we can get to know you a little bit better. And with that, I will turn off the recording and stop sharing my screen.